Welcome to another season of magical Malevolent Michigan. I'm coming to you from outside this lovely abandoned shack in the middle of nowhere, in a video apparently shot on a VHS camcorder we found at a garage sale to really try to ride that 80s nostalgia wave. Thanks, Stranger Things. Are we even going to cut away from this shot, or are we just going to stick with this for all 4 weeks? Just kind of close up, no mediums, no longs? Alright, I understand. Yeah. Gotta give the people what they want. Lucky you. Great. Stuck with this. Thank you for joining me on a quest around some of the scariest, most unique, or even just plain weird places across our great state of Michigan. We're starting this year off with something that I think counts as all three. And the best part? It's right in our own backyard, just up Route 23 in Tyrone. I'm talking, of course, about the Tyrone Sunken Gardens. Although our ultimate destination is the Sunken Gardens, to get there we must first venture forth through the Tyrone Memory Gardens. Tyrone is pretty big on gardens, I guess, sunken or otherwise. The Tyrone Memory Gardens is a beautiful cemetery located just a hop, skip, and a jump from Cromaine off of Route 23's Exit 77 on White Lake Road. The cemetery is open to the public from dawn to dusk every day. Visitors to the cemetery are asked to please refrain from any dark rituals and to be respectful of others who may be there visiting loved ones. Please be courteous and avoid approaching statues while others are there. And visitors should explore the cemetery, which contains many interesting bronze statues depicting biblical figures and scenes. The statues were created by sculptor Robert St. Croix, whose mother is buried here. Once you have explored the scenic environs of the Memory Gardens to your heart's discontent, it's time to find your way to the Sunken Gardens. Getting to the Sunken Gardens is no mean feat. Follow the meandering road all the way around to the back of the cemetery. Follow the stacked slate wall, and finally to one last statuary scene, a tableau of Moses kneeling before the clay tablets. As one approaches the roughshod gate and gazes upon the long descent toward the gardens, one must consider their distant, inconspicuous placement, so separate from the Memory Gardens, virtually unmarked. The Sunken Gardens were built in the 1930s by Charles Eugene Smith, about whom very little, aside from what can be gleaned from the garden itself, is known. Why were the Sunken Gardens secreted so far away from everything else on the grounds? Are the statuaries, placed in the 90s over 60 years after the creation of the Sunken Gardens, simply beautiful statues, or are they guarding against something sinister and wild and fey? Who was Charles Eugene Smith? A simple world traveler who wanted to build something pretty in Tyrone? A warlock creating this mysterious garden for nefarious purposes? Neither? Perhaps both? The answers lie at the base of this steep decline and over the wooden bridge traversing this gurgling stream. Immediately after crossing the bridge, you'll encounter your first hint of what is to come. This stone and engraving which reads, "Presented to our dear friend C.E. Smith by Mr. and Mrs. William Johnson, North Yarmouth, Maine, Pine Tree State, 1937. At the base of the stone is a plaque listing Tyrone's elevation and the elevation of Michigan's highest point, Porcupine Mountain, which, if this stone is to be believed, is the highest elevation between the Rocky Mountains and the Appalachians. But this is a mere appetizer for what is to come. A short walk down the path leads to mid-Michigan's own Stonehengian fantasy. You officially enter the Sunken Gardens through a trilithon. The two vertical pillars contain the quarry dates and locations, while the horizontal slab contains two inscriptions. Youth, as you enter into the eastern gate and on nature's beauty gaze, see these radiant smiles of sunlight on the western face of heaven. Down in the vale by the brook, its running waters sparkle like pearls and opals fair, fairer than the lily wet with the morning dew, worth more than the Indies or the riches of Peru. Immediately past the gateway is this large standing stone naming the area. The following message has been etched into the rear of the stone. After having traveled around the world 4 different times and visited parts of Europe, Asia, North America, South America, North and South Africa, Australia and the islands of New Zealand, Tasmania, St. Helena, Canary, Fiji, Ceylon, Iceland, Hawaii, Philippines, Newfoundland, Faroe, and many others, and considering the famous rock gardens of Iceland and the sunken gardens of London, England, and Mexico City the most beautiful, I contribute this memorial in memory to this small garden.
We get it, Charles Eugene Smith, you like to travel.
Following the path leads to a central plinth, which used to hold an accurate and functioning sundial, but is now littered with the scattered keepsakes of former visitors. Whether these are prayers to a fell god or a devotional to a peaceful visit is up to you to decide. The path is just one of 8 that flare outward from the plinth to the circle of stones surrounding the grounds. The stones in this circle are engraved with the names of the 50 states and the state's nickname, though some of the states bear incorrect nicknames. New Jersey, for instance, is the Garden State and is nowhere that I can find referred to as the Jersey Blue State. Neither Montana the Stub Toe State, nor is Utah the Desert State, nor Georgia the Cracker State, nor is Illinois the Sucker State.
Though people voluntarily in Illinois, come on, you know you can do better.
There exist also larger stones which list the state flowers for each state. Other notable stones also dot the landscape. For instance, this stone with a quotation, "Sit down beside the babbling brook where the sparkling water flows o'er its pebbles and God's sunshine glows o'er the juniper green. In old Tyrone hills where beauty and grace abounds while resting and meditating in this garden sublime." And just in case you've ever wondered how far it is from Tyrone to various cities around the globe, this stone will provide the answer. And directly opposite the entrance is this near-mirror image stone inscribed with, "Short the day, great the work, I tarry not for the idle," on the front. On the back, the flowers of Java, the clouds of Africa, the Andes Mountains of South America, the shores of Lake Michigan. The 4 beauties of nature are cheerful and restful while far away from loved ones at home. The tessellated pavement of Tasmania, the glowworm cave of New Zealand, the Giant's Causeway of Ireland, the wells of Minnesota are famous beauties of nature. And a second trilathon, what was presumably at one time an alternate entrance to the park, but now leads only to wilderness wild and rambling. The garden-side inscription reads, "Whoever rings the bell will wealthy be." Its rhythmic chimes are like the days of old, as toiling in the quarry on the hill, or by the brook whose waters as of yore flow onward to the sea. In springtime's promise or in summer's bloom, in autumn's harvest or in winter's gloom. The chimes that called you from the harvest field in days of youth and energy, and hope back to your mother's hearthstone for a meal, or by the brook to pause and quench your thirst and eat God's harvest bread. As gleaners hearken to the bugle call, and with uncovered head give thanks for all. On the reverse is etched, "Pilgrim, as you enter this western gate, smile. The beauties within are yours to enjoy just as freely as the rose of Sharon and the sparkle of the dewdrops in God's bright sunshine. Smile today, for tomorrow we pass on, like the fleeting clouds which are borne away by the gentle breezes that blow o'er this western gate which opens into a garden of rare beauty and fragrance." Passing through the trilathon, one comes upon this hitching post. Engraved in the base is, "In the days of old the hitching post was used before the invention of the iron horse to tie old Dobbin with a rum strap good and strong, while attending to business or to gather at the meeting house where youth and old, aged so fondly, met together to impart God's blessing on mankind." This last landmark inspected, we must leave the gardens, perhaps with more questions than answers.
Though we know very little about the original purpose or construction of the Sunken Gardens, what we do know is that the area has recently been restored and is now well maintained.
Though it will never quite reach the grandeur it once held when a peacock menagerie, miniature golf course, and even a small train, all of which have since been lost to time, and the ravages of Mother Nature also adorn the nearby landscape. I would urge you to be careful while exploring the grounds as they tend to be very wet. I nearly lost one of my cloven hooves in the sucking, squelching mud when I was here. Also, please remember to be kind and courteous to anyone visiting the cemetery and possibly grieving lost ones. Join us next week as I guide you through some of Michigan's many cemeteries and will experience the legends and lore surrounding some Michigan ghost tales held therein.